Vancouver, pregame, postgame, every game presented by Bodog. From sports odds to free casino games, make a play at Bodog.net. Wadden and JPat here with you with another edition of the pregame show as the Canucks get set to face off against Kirill the Thrill and the Minnesota Wild. And oh yeah, JPat, looking for a fourth W in a row.
Yeah, which would be a season high for the Canucks. They have had a pair of 3-game win streaks, but again, if this team's going to get where it wants to go, it's going to have to get on a roll. And Kirill Kaprizov certainly has been on a roll. Had scored in 7 straight games before he was held off the score sheet in Edmonton, but he didn't put a puck in the net, so he's been on a roll. Minnesota's been playing all right. They've lost their 2 games in Alberta coming into this one, but they had won 6 of 7 prior to that. Canucks need to get on that kind of run of 6 of 7. They've won 8 of their last 11, so they've been playing better as well. But you're right, this is a chance to do something they haven't done to this point in the season, and that's win 4 straight hockey games.
Let's get to the lineup change now, presented by Delaney's OK Tire on Fraser Highway out in Langley. Not expecting many changes from the Canucks, JPat, and Spencer Martin going to get the start and goal.
Yeah, and I think that's going to be the case for the foreseeable future. At some point, Colin Delia probably will get tapped to get a start here, but in the here and now without Thatcher Demko, it is Spencer Martin's net, and it's another night where he's got to be a little bit better, but the team in front of him has to be better as well. But in terms of changes to the lineup based on the practice out at UBC on Friday afternoon, looks like they're going to come right back with the same lines and line combos and defensive pairings that they used to beat the Sharks in overtime on Wednesday night. So the Canucks had Thursday off, a practice day Friday. They should be rested. For Minnesota, it's back-to-back. So this is an opportunity for the Vancouver Canucks to jump on their visitors and try to get the game's first goal, something they haven't done in a while. They've been scored on first in 5 straight, including just 18 seconds into that game at the Shark Tank the other night.
Yeah, and they're going to want to take it to Minnesota early, dial things up defensively as well.
Yeah, wouldn't that be nice to see the Canucks with the Jim Rutherford certainly would think it was nice to see a little bit of structure. It was last Saturday that they played a fairly conventional 3-2 hockey game, beat the Arizona Coyotes in overtime. That night, of course, the last 4 Canuck victories have all come in OT. And if you remember, the first meeting of the season between the Canucks and the Wild also decided in overtime. Mini came out on top in that one. But we'll see. After giving up 6 to Montreal and 5 to San Jose, it is time just to bring the temperature down a little bit in front of Spencer Martin. Again, you've got a Minnesota team that played last night. So we'll see if the Canucks can take advantage of that and try to get a leg up early and dictate the way this game is going to be played.
And JT Miller looking for a bounce-back game after seeing some pine in overtime against the San Jose Sharks.
Yeah, we saw a lot of players in overtime, but we did not see number 9 for the Vancouver Canucks. Now, he had looked like a pro after practice yesterday, was asked about it, said, hey, it was a tough night, and it was. He and his line, they just weren't going. Bruce Boudreau clearly saw the same thing. Boudreau's got other game breakers, and so he turned to other players in overtime. Canucks got the job done, and so JT said he wasn't going to lose any sleep over it, but let's see how he responds. Clearly, that's a message from the coach that he wasn't good enough against San Jose. They're going to need JT Miller because the Minnesota Wild, a better hockey club than the Sharks.
Seems like just yesterday when young Bowie Horvat came into the Canucks organization, but guess what? Tonight, his 600th NHL game.
Yeah, it feels like he's got 600 goals this season.
True.
Not quite, but a big milestone for the captain of the Vancouver Canucks. And he's generally up for the occasion and has been terrific for them. But look, it wasn't just JT Miller the other night. I know Horvat had an assist on the Nils Höglander goal. So that line wasn't held completely in check. But boy, they got checked into the ground, spent most of the night in San Jose in their own zone. They got to flip the script there and make sure that they spend more time in the offensive zone trying to create some things. And for Bo Horvat, try to generate a victory here in his 600th regular season game in the National Hockey League.
Things didn't go so well for the Wild through Alberta, a 5-2 loss to Edmonton last night, but they had been hot going in, having won 6 of 7.
Yeah, and they played all right against Edmonton. How many times have we said this? They ran into an Oiler power play that's pretty much unstoppable right now. McDavid and Draisaitl and the Nuge, they turned it up a notch, and Minnesota just couldn't keep pace. Minnie had a 5-on-3 that it didn't convert on in that game, but keep in mind that Minnesota generated 44 shots on goal. Stuart Skinner has been a nice story for the Edmonton Oilers. He was good last night. And it was a week ago that Minnesota had a season-high 49 shots on goal. Now, that was against Anaheim, but still, in the span of a week here, 49 shots, 44 shots on goal. We talked about Spencer Martin. He better be ready to see the puck coming his way a fair bit tonight.
Kirill Kaprizov was red hot. He was on a 7-game goal-scoring streak going into last night's action. Now, he kept his point streak alive, getting an assist, which is now at 14 games.
Yeah, he's got 9 goals and 12 assists. So 21 points in his last 14. He is just about as dynamic as they come. Maybe not in that McDavid-Draisaitl category, but a notch down from there. He's an absolute game breaker. The Canucks saw that firsthand when they were in Minnesota earlier this season, and they're going to have to be careful. He played a lot, almost 22 minutes last night, so we'll see how fresh his legs are, but he's young enough. He's a guy that if you give him an inch, he takes a mile. He's creative. He's not afraid to get to the dirty areas of the ice as well. He can beat you with goals, but he can beat you as a playmaker as well. He's becoming one of those guys that is worth the price of admission. So people that are going to the game tonight, they're going to see Kirill Kaprizov. Question is, can the Canucks do anything to slow him down and keep him in check?
Canucks are not going to want to get dragged into a fight with the Minnesota Wild. Some big boys on the other side, Foligno, Greenway, and oh yeah, Ryan Reeves is there as well. Most penalized team in the NHL.
They are on a per-game basis. Nobody takes more penalties than the Minnesota Wild. Of course, the Canucks, they lead the NHL in fighting majors. So it's a Saturday night. 'Tis the season. Would not be the least bit surprised if the gloves come off at some point. But Minnesota, it's got that top line right now with Kaprizov and Zuccarello and Joel Eriksson Ek. But after that, they've got guys that do like to play that big, strong, physical style, and I think the Canucks have to be careful. Canucks have more game breakers than the Minnesota Wild. The Canucks can't allow this game to get dragged into the trenches or into the ditches, even though Minnesota sometimes likes to take it that way. At the same time, Canucks can't allow themselves to get pushed around. This is their rink, and they have to start establishing some sort of home ice advantage.
Fans of future Hall of Famer Marc-Andre Fleury going to be disappointed, it looks like, tonight, as he did play last night in Edmonton. Expect the backup to get the start for the Wild.
Yeah, if I ask people out on the street, who is the backup for the Minnesota Wild, I'm not sure a lot of people would know. It's Philip Gustafsson. It's not the monster. It's not Jonas Gustafsson from a few years ago, but Philip Gustafsson. And actually, his numbers aren't bad. He's 4-4-1 on the season, but he just hasn't played a lot. When you got Marc-Andre Fleury, you're going to go with, as you said, the future Hall of Famer. So Gustafsson's won his last 3 starts, but he's only appeared in 1 of the last 7 Minnesota games. So if you're the Vancouver Canucks, look, you didn't do enough the other night to initiate a youngster making his NHL debut in the 3rd period in San Jose. Test this guy. Test him often. Test him early. We talked about the Canucks trying to get the jump on Minnesota, a team that played last night. Minnesota's hoping that Gustafsson can provide them a little bit of a boost in goal. He's got the fresh legs there, but don't make it easy for him. Don't welcome him into this hockey game. Pounce on him early, and again, see if you can't get out in front and make Minnesota adapt and chase the game from that point on.
Here's my Bodog Best Bet, and boy, do I need a W tonight. I'm looking at both teams to score in the first period at plus 135. Just feels like one of those games, JPat, and you know the Canucks, they love to bleed goals.
Yeah, we've certainly seen enough of that. That's why I say they just got to sort of try to tone it down defensively. And we'll see if they're capable of that, or if they're going to go into another game and think, hey, we'll just outscore our mistakes and see if we can't pile up a bunch on a backup goaltender. So who knows how the game's going to unfold. That's why they play it. But we saw Canucks give up one early, 18 seconds in the other night. It wouldn't surprise me if there are a bunch of goals to be had in this hockey game. Ultimately, the Canucks have to find a way to get one more than the Minnesota Wild, because if they do, and they're entering this stretch of the schedule now that really, I think, has some heft and some significance, this is just the way it works out. Calgary is in Toronto tonight. Colorado is idle, and Minnesota's here in Vancouver. A regulation victory for the Canucks combined with a Calgary loss against the Maple Leafs, Canucks will catch the Flames and, in the process, leap both the Wild and the defending Stanley Cup champs. So, this is what they've done. They've done a nice job to get back to this 12-12-3 mark at the 27 games into the season. But if they're going to be a playoff team, these are the kinds of games, these are the kind of nights where they've got to make some hay.
All right, you could make some hay too if you win this. We got some more Bodog Bucks to give away, $50. In fact, here's what you got to do. Head to @RinkWide Podcast on Twitter, look for the post, guess the time and the period of the game-winning goal. The closest guest wins 50 Bodog Bucks. Now, you must have a Bodog account, and you can always leave your times and your period below here in the comment section on YouTube. Okay, JPat, it's time. Who tonight is going to do something in this game?
I'm looking at Quinn Hughes. We spent a lot of time talking about Kirill Kaprizov. It's pretty good chance that Hughes and Luke Schenn are going to see the bulk of the ice time against that top line for the Minnesota Wild. The other night in San Jose, a forgettable night just in terms of the underlying numbers and the amount of time that Hughes and Shen spent defending. We're not used to seeing that. So where we said earlier that it's a bounce back night for a guy like JT Miller, Quinn Hughes doesn't have to dominate this hockey game, although you'd like to see it. He was a full participant in practice yesterday. That was a good sign because I think earlier in the week, maybe he was playing through something. He took that morning skate off, but he was back. He was dancing at practice yesterday, and so that's a good sign that he can carry that over into tonight's game against, again, a Minnesota team that played last night. So a guy like Quinn Hughes with those legs moving, get the puck up ice, get it into the offensive zone. The points are there. He's got 4 points in his last 3 games, so he's not being held off the score sheet, but I want to see Quinn Hughes tilt the ice in the Canucks' favor, and I would love to see him have one of those nights where you walk out of the rink, and without a doubt, he has been the most dynamic player on the ice. So I'm looking at Quinn Hughes. Don't often go to defensemen, but in this case, he's a special player for the Canucks. We know that, and I just think there's more there to give. So I'm looking at Quinn Hughes to do something to help the Canucks take care of the Wild.
All right. And a reminder, here is our latest code word for the Wired Snowboard giveaway. Send this in to 778-402-9680. That'll get you into a draw to win a 2023 Wired Recon Series snowboard. Check them out, based right in East Vancouver, wiredsnowboards.com. The Canucks are going to try to wire some goals past the Wild tonight and get that 4th W in a row, but it won't be easy with Krill the Thrill in town. This has been another edition of the Rink Wide Vancouver podcast, presented by Bodog. For Jeff Patterson, I'm Andrew Wadden. Remember, Rink Wide is the show that always scores.